If you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. The title or the thumbnail probably says something like, "Am I a traitor?" with a question mark. So today's topic is kind of about tribalism. I guess it is about tribalism. And I want to talk about it because I get this comment all the time from Americans. And the comment, which I'll put on the screen, basically is calling me a traitor, which I find so bizarre because the definition, I'll look it up for you. The definition of a traitor, as I pull it up on my screen here, traitor, which is one who betrays another's trust or is false to an obligation or duty. So I'm very curious about the people that comment on this. Obviously, it's Americans who are saying that I've somehow betrayed my country. I'm a traitor to the United States, which would be that I've broken somebody's trust. I betrayed their trust. And I'm like, well, who trusted me in the first place? First off, who trusted me? That's on you. The second part of that definition is basically about obligation and duty. And I don't know about you, but I don't feel that I have any obligation or duty to the country that I was born to. And that's kind of what I want to get into today, because it's an interesting concept, and it has a lot to do with nationalism, it has a lot to do with tribalism, and it has a lot to do with, I guess, indoctrination from a young age. So when I was growing up, I was homeschooled, and my family read a lot of books, a lot of diverse books, and my parents traveled the world when they were younger. So my parents traveled pretty much through all of Central and parts of South America. They traveled through most of Europe, parts of Northern Africa, and parts of what we consider like the Middle East, like Iran. And they also were in India, so they were in parts of Asia. So my father and my mother had a very different outlook on the world, whereas many people who grow up in the United States have a very different upbringing. Their parents might have never left the United States, or if they traveled, it would have been very limited. Maybe they went to Cancun, maybe they went to Europe for a summer, vacation. Many people in the United States, if you look at the statistics, have never even left their state. And most Americans don't have a passport. So they grow up in a very different household with a very different view on the global society. When I'm called a traitor, it always makes me go, what am I actually betraying? Because I couldn't pick the country that I was born in, right? Your parents do that for you. And my father is an American and my mother is Canadian. So they were living in the United States when they had me. And so I had no choice but to be born there. It's not a choice. So I don't know which obligation or whose trust I'm breaking by being born. I was born, I was raised, and when I turned about 20, when did I move here? I was 20, early 20s, I moved to China. And I've been here for 14 years. So I went through the upbringing of a normal citizen. Not quite. I was homeschooled, so I didn't have the indoctrination of school. But at some point, I said, I want to go explore the world and see what is out there. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I actually encourage it, and I think everybody from every country who has the opportunity should go to other countries to see how they live, to see how they behave, to see how their societies function, or in some cases, don't function. I've seen very organized countries and very prosperous countries like Japan, and I've also seen extreme poverty. And I think I'm better for that because it's created more empathy and more compassion within me by being able to see how other people live, whether it's good or bad. So how am I betraying the American way of life? I came to China and I liked it. And I said, hey, this is better for me personally, so I will live here. And I have, successfully. On top of that, I guess maybe some will say, oh, well, you make videos about the United States pointing out some of the wrongs in the United States. And I say, yeah, because I think that this should be addressed. And awareness is usually the first way that you address a problem, right? If you don't admit or address that you have a problem, then you probably won't deal with it because you won't see it as a problem. So many of the people that are commenting and saying, oh, you hate the United States, it's like, no, I don't hate the United States. I don't hate any country for that matter, because why would I? The United States is where I was born. It's where my family lives. And I'm not betraying anybody or anybody's trust or any obligations, right? I'm not in the U.S. military. I've never been part of the U.S. military. I was literally and still am a citizen of the United States. That's what my passport says. I choose to live in another country because I find it more rewarding than my home country. And when I talk about my home country, and oftentimes present my current country with my home country and say, look, this is what my life is like here in this country, and this is why I feel it is better at this moment in time, versus my home country where I say, hey, look, the United States has quite a few problems. Maybe if they fix those problems, we would have a better country. Maybe I would have a better life in the United States if these problems were fixed. Drawing awareness to a problem isn't being a traitor. As a matter of fact, every United States citizen should be drawing attention to these problems and pressuring their elected officials to do something about it. Now, I don't live in the United States, obviously, so I can't run for office to try and change that. I wouldn't even want to run for office. But I can create awareness through the videos that I make. I can say, hey, look, in these other parts of the world, whether it's China or Japan or somewhere in Europe, I've often traveled to Europe. My wife is from the Netherlands. I can say, look at these other countries and what they're doing well. Why can't the United States look at those countries and what they're doing well and emulate that in some way? Why can't the United States spend its money on public infrastructure? Why can't the United States spend its money on healthcare? These are questions that I ask in some of my videos, or some of the things that I pointed out, like maternity leave. The United States doesn't really have good maternity leave, but other countries do. And usually that creates a better situation for the child, which is going to later be a citizen of that country. So don't we want, as citizens of any country, the best for our family and our communities? So why isn't the United States looking to other countries, whether it's in Europe or in Asia or in any other part of the world where they're doing things better, and trying to incorporate that into the American society? If that makes me a traitor by pointing those things out or having these ideas or saying these things, then I guess that's what I am. I mean, it doesn't seem like it seems like such a crazy concept. I think what the bigger problem is tribalism, which is kind of the topic of this video now that I'm getting to it 20 minutes later, is people don't want to be confronted with things that they know are true, right? If you are a fan of the Jets, you know the Jets suck. But you don't want somebody from another team, the Green Bay Packers, saying, hey, your team sucks. That makes you angry. You're like, no, I'm going to defend my team. So I think what happens is when they see me as somebody who was part of their tribe, I was a United States citizen, I still am, but I've left that tribe and gone somewhere else and said, hey, it's actually better over here, at least for me. They say, no, you're a traitor. You are, you left our tribe. You've left the Jets. You're no longer a Jets fan, and now you're a Packers fan. Oh, you're a traitor. That's just a very simple example. I think when we talk about tribalism, and this can be at any level, it can be the city that you live in. Oh, I'm a Floridian. Oh, I'm from California. Oh, I'm Texan. Or it could be a team, right? Whatever sport you're into, you can be like, I'm rooting for Miami Heat or LA Lakers, or I'm, a New York Mets, or I don't know, Atlanta Braves. I don't know sports. I don't really watch sports. Anyways, the analogy is when we become tribal and nationalistic, we tend to forget that other people around the world are doing things that could be implemented in our own country. But because they're from another country, we say, oh, they can't be doing anything well. And the United States media really, really, really enforces that concept of United States is the best. So this goes back to the nationalism part of it. When I was growing up, I was homeschooled, but I did go to school a little bit. And I remember in the first grade, I went to public school. And we had to pledge allegiance to the flag. And I literally know the Pledge of Allegiance, even though I was homeschooled most of my life. Most people in the United States know the Pledge of Allegiance. And you literally, every day, Monday through Friday, we would have first period, we'd pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, blah, 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 blah. And that was, you supposed to place your hand on your heart and say, I pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge my allegiance to this government. And if that isn't indoctrination, then I don't know what is. So I don't know if that happens anymore in schools, but when I was growing up in first grade back in the 90s or whatever, we would pledge allegiance to the flag. And that might be partly why they're calling me a traitor, because if you grew up from age basically 6 all the way up until whatever age they are now, who are making these comments, believing that the United States is the best country in the world and pledging your allegiance to the United States, then you probably don't have a concept of the outside world. How could another country be better than the United States? Because you've been told your whole life that the United States is the best, and you've never taken the time to actually travel and live anywhere else. Because why would you? You're in the best country in the world. It's kind of like when we went to North Korea and we were talking to the guides who actually have interaction with foreigners because they are the local tour guides and they've been handpicked for this role. But when we went there, they were surprised when we thought it was strange that North Korea was launching rockets. And they were like, but it's for our country. And we're like, what do you mean? It's going to hurt your country if they keep launching rockets. And they're like, no, it's for our defense. It's for our country. They truly believe that North Korea was the best country in the world because that's what they've been told literally from birth, is that their country is in this fight against, capitalism and their, these imperialistic forces, whether it was the United States or France or any other people that they considered imperialistics. And they've been told their whole life that their country is a good country, that their leader is an amazing leader, in that they are appointed by God, in that they're doing their best. And even though maybe they don't always have food, other people in other countries are even worse off. And so when I was there in North Korea, a very short trip, it made me think about kind of my past in the United States. And I was like, oh, this is really no different. We're told the same thing in the United States, that we have the best country in the world, democracy is the best form of government, in that we are defending democracy around the world, and we have to stop communism, we have to stop, dictatorships, and we have to spread freedom. It's all about freedom. But it's the same exact propaganda, just in a different focus. But it's the same exact thing as in North Korea or in the United States. And I think that's really interesting because many people in the United States don't realize how brainwashed they are, how nationalistic they are, and how indoctrinated they are, just the same way as people in North Korea don't realize how indoctrinated they are, how brainwashed they are, and how much programming is done throughout their entire lives. Everything in the United States reinforces this idea that the United States is the best country in the world. Same thing in North Korea. Everything in North Korea reinforces the idea that their leaders are the best leaders in the world, and their country is in this epic struggle for the freedom of the people, for socialism, for overcoming the imperialistic forces, which is very interesting, because if that continues, I don't know what the future is for the United States, because I don't think that can continue forever, especially with social media, especially with people that have lived in other countries. YouTube is showing videos of people traveling all over the world, showing how it's better. I have lots of people in Europe who are saying, I live in Europe, I live in Germany, and we have great health care. I live in Sweden or Norway or Denmark or the Netherlands or whatever country you choose to watch, right? There's Americans living abroad saying, actually, America's not what we thought it was. People like me, even in China, which is one of the countries that people can't believe that it would be a better life here than in the United States, because they've been told their whole life that communism is terrible and China's this terrible communist country, and I must be a traitor because I'm willing to live here and then say positive things about a country that I've successfully lived in for 14 years. That goes against everything they believe, everything they've been told. It goes against their programming and their indoctrination, that I must be lying. I must be paid. I must be a traitor, because that cannot be true. But anyways, interesting conversation about some of the comments that I get. Oftentimes, their comments are blocked by YouTube because of the policy, so I have to actually go in and look for them. And I don't approve them because whatever. Certain people, you can't change their mind. You could bring them here. You could force them to live here for any period of time. They could have an amazing life here, and they would still say, but it's a communist country. And you're like, okay, well, if you don't want to believe it, I'm not going to waste my breath on trying to convince you if you have no concept of the truth, and you also have no willingness to explore other alternatives or other narratives. So anyways, interesting, the comments I get. If you enjoyed this kind of rambling talk about some of the comments I get, and about nationalism and about tribalism, give this video a thumbs up. Also, if you want to become a member, that's the best way to support me. Like I've been saying in all the videos, it's the best way to support me at this point in time. So consider becoming a member. If not, the best thing you can do is like and share and comment, and I will see you in the next video.